Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Sunletter on How to Fight CPS and Win, the New York edition. Thank you for joining us. Today, we have a very special guest joining today from Harlem, New York, Anaya A. She's a very special person with a lot going on. She's very tender-hearted, caring for the community, caring for children. And due to her experience with the foster care system, she was inspired to start making changes and help children in the community. So without further ado, here is Anaya. Would you like to say some words to the community about your experience and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. First, can you all hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's your girl Anaya A. And sorry if I sound a little nasally or a little like Rosie Perez, because it's been a very weird weather situation happening in New York lately. So I'm trying to get over a cold. Just like Stacy said, because of my experiences, I've started the foster care task force here in New York City, which started in Harlem, and it literally started after going through hell. Stacey, do I have time to share a little bit of
Good.
perfect? So, a couple of years ago, I wanted to be a foster care mother, and literally, I wanted to share my experiences of life and give back and nurture and love children in our community, thinking that within foster care, that would be a great idea, especially since I was under the impression most children were taken from homes when, like, their parents passed away and things of that nature, and a lot of parents just were not able to take care of their children. And so I thought that's what foster care initially was. And I went on to become a foster parent, did all the classes, made sure that I passed everything that they required. The agency in question asked me to, make sure I did my fingerprints. They took information about my dog. They walked through my neighborhood. So it was super intense, the process to become a foster mother. And but I did it because I really cared and I wanted to see children, especially children of color in our community, have a support system and literally get the assistance they need in life or what have you, because even though I didn't have a big enough space to have multiple children, if I could help a beautiful baby and then other children, other babies, then that's what I was aiming for. Well, after I passed all the classes and did everything by the book, because I'm a stickler about doing things by the book, I realized after a while I never got a foster child. And so being the person I am as an advocate, an activist, an entertainer, producer, you name it, I know how to get back on track and ask questions like, what's going on? Why don't I have a child? Upon doing that, I shortly realized that this agency lost all of my documentations, including but not limited to my fingerprints. And every piece of information they had on me in a day and time where everything should be digitalized and everything, nothing was showing up for your girl Anaya A, and that was so heartbreaking. But that led to the quest on finding out what the hell is happening behind the closed doors of foster care, of CPS, and what's happening to our children. If my documentations as an adult could be just, could vanish in thin air, what's really happening behind closed doors of foster care. And so today, I guess we're going to go a little bit deeper and speak to Miss Stacy Moore about this quest that we're on together.
Well, I work in medicine. I'm a physician assistant. And if we ever lost medical records,
Hmm.
there'd be a lot of explaining to have to do because that's someone's personal information. So it's not even just the fact that they lost your fingerprints and your information, but where did it go to and who has access to it?
Right.
That whole like sense of being violated. It's crazy what happens to physicians if they, violate someone's confidentiality, even by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And it costs a lot of money, but for them, oh well, huh?
Well, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. I felt extremely violated, Stacy. And to anybody that's listening now, and to anybody that will listen at a later time, never let the people that are in charge, or people that are supposed to be taking care of situations just give you a no as a final answer. or tell you you have to redo an entire course, or if you're in school, you have to fight for your rights in education. If you are in, like in Stacy's case, a physician's assistant, you have to fight for information like what happened to these people's documentations, because at the end of the day, if you don't fight for your rights, then what are we doing here, right? So I was extremely violated, Stacy. You could only imagine the horror, thinking that I didn't matter, that my desire to help children didn't matter, that being a woman of color in 2020, 2021, 2022, or whatever the time frame was, because it's been years now, right? That my needs and my desires and my quest to help was just completely not a thing. It was not something that people took seriously. And that's what hurt the most, because, like I said, that shouldn't even happen to me or anybody. And it happened to another family, just to let you all know. It happened to another family within the group. So let's say, and I want people to understand the figures on this, right? Let's say there was 8 participants in this class, right? And it happens to 2 families out of 8. What is that ratio? 2 out of 8. That's a pretty big number when you're thinking about how small the class is. It could have been even 6. It could have even been 7. However, I'm going to say 8 because I believe others joined us right towards the end. Therefore, if you're losing documentations, 2 out of 8, if this is happening very frequently, where is all of this information going? And then we have the other situation of it. If it ends up in the wrong hands, my people, what are you going to do with my documentations, my fingerprints, my social security number? You understand? I already have a hard time enough in New York City just trying to get somewhere to live, just trying to be a business owner, just trying to make it. And you guys call this fair? After we've put in our time to help, to give back, and to make a difference. It's
Right.
not going to be so easy for you guys to continue doing this to people. It's not fair.
Yeah, your point is well received, right? That this happened to you, it should be it shouldn't happen at all. But if it happened, it should be a one-time thing. You shouldn't be finding other people the same thing happened to. So
Absolutely. And that's why we're here.
when you start seeing that there's a pattern of this happening, that's definitely a cause for concern and for alarm, and definitely where you want to start looking for answers.
Absolutely. And then, two, I wanted to bring in other families, right, Stacy? I wanted to bring in other caring family members, not family members of my own per se, but like people that I met, doctors, lawyers, educators, people that had the time, the empty nesters, those that are retired or going to be retired, who have children that are out of the home, who are saying to me, Anaya, everything you do, we look at you, we see the compassion you have, we see how hard you go for our community. We want to join forces. So how could I bring people that are my friends, people that I care very near and dear to my heart, to come on board with people that are losing my documentations as the person that's the advocate?
Right, right. And then, how offensive.
Yes.
Because how much time did you put in again? I mean, it's not a
I
little,
mean,
these classes they make you take to become certified. It's a lot of time.
it's a lot of time. It's literally like over 3 hours every Saturday for months. It was at least a few months. And you're waking up at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you have to be there on time. Thankfully, it was via Zoom because of the pandemic. But even still, it's still time that you put in, and you're getting information. You're retaining information. They're asking you questions. Then you have again the walking through of your home. That's super personal. You're giving all your information, and they're looking at everything in your home. And then you have to buy things, Stacy. So what people don't understand a lot of times, and if they do get it, great. If not, I'll share. When you try to become a foster parent, for example, they have requirements of you, right? If you want children that are of a certain age, especially babies, you have to have your home baby, secured or what have you. I don't know the right terminology, but you have to have everything secured for that child. So you have to go shopping to prepare your home for the child that's coming in, because you don't want to be that person that doesn't do what they're saying to do. So you have to spend money, which I did. in getting the home prepared, and then you have to be able to get everything that they need and require of you. And then moving forward, you even have to communicate with your friends and family members to let them know, hey, this is something I'm about to partake, and I may need a babysitter sometime, or I may need you to stand by and be there for my new baby that's coming into my home, because if God forbid I have something that I have to do, I can't watch the baby. All of that is what you call time and preparation.
And we're both moms now. Thank
Now I am. Yes.
us, thank the Lord, right? But
Yes.
when, speaking from one mom to the next, when you have that desire that it's in your core to nurture and raise a child and give love, and and then it's just treated like a tease, that's a whole other level of just emotional torture that they just did. Granted, when you go in, you don't go with any promises of a child,
Right.
but when
Uh-huh.
when you have a good portfolio, which you do, right? You have a very
Right.
good background, and they always say they're looking for foster parents. So again, that was such an injustice and heartbreaking, I'm sure, to just dashing to experience in and of itself. And I can understand why you're so inspired to do what you have taken on now, if you want to describe some of those things.
Oh, absolutely. And to speak to that point, Stacey, I'm sorry, I'm just making sure Facebook knows we're on. By the way, have we shared this link live with everybody so they could be watching? Because I know Vaughn wanted to watch, and our other members are excited about watching now. So I
Yep.
wanted to make sure we're live for them. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so to speak to Stacey's point, right? So when you're a woman of a certain age, I guess, I don't want to be offensive to anybody, but let's be real. We have something called like a time clock or a maternal clock or something. I'm not really well versed on all those different, not geographical. Oh my God, I'm not well versed on this whole like.
Oh,
Me, Stacey? Okay, there we go. So I'm not super well versed, but I know women have like a time clock or something happening down there, right? And most of my life, I didn't want a kid. I didn't want to be a mother. I was like, oh, this world is horrible. Why would I want to bring a kid into this world? I want to be a career woman. I want to, do what I have to do for myself. I was very selfish, extremely selfish, because of the world that we live in. It caused me to think about independence and wanting to think for myself and all of that. Well, at a certain age, I realized, oh my God, I'm getting older. Maybe having a kid is not the worst idea. Maybe trying to raise a family now after I've done everything I could for myself or what have you, that's a great thing, to give back. And then I realized I couldn't have a child. So another thing is I couldn't have a child. I was barren for so many years. So it became increasingly more depressing when you're told you can't have a child. Then you try to have a foster baby or adopt, then you can't have one of those either. And then you're just like, okay, well, back to square one with my dog. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my personal journey. This is not every woman's journey. I'm just sharing personal, insight. And then to bring other people into the situation, now they're looking at you like, well, where's this foster child? Where's your adopted child? Because they're hoping the best for you knowing your situation. So I just wanted to piggyback off of that point. And then moving forward, with the work that I'm doing now, I really didn't know what I was walking into, Stacey, right? And for anybody that's watching, and I see Vaughn, I think Vaughn has signed in and she's watching now. So she's a great supporter and we're helping her with her grandbaby for sure as much as possible. Um, and I had no idea what I was walking into. I was just thinking, I'm going to find out some information, and being who I am, I'm going to knock on some politicians' doors, the politicians out there, and I'm going to tell them, hey, there's something bad going on with foster care, and my name is Anaya A, and you've probably seen me all over the world on TV, on all these platforms, and now I care to be a mom or what have you, and I just want to make the world a better place. So this was my thinking going into trying to get help for myself and others, not knowing that CPS is extremely wow, like I don't even have the word. Volatile is a word. Depressing is another word. Um, I mean, I like did not know what I was walking into, right? And like I said, I reached out to a couple of politicians and I try to explain, like, hey, there's something weird happening here. There's an agency stealing people's data, information, fingerprints, and I'm not getting anywhere with, trying to retrieve mine, for example, Then I started listening to people's stories and I started questioning people because part of my background is in production and psychology, right? So I can listen to people and figure out there's really something twisted happening here. So Stacy, as you know the story, I went out to speak to people that possibly had had their children taken away or they've heard of, mishaps within the foster care system. And when that occurred, my life took a drastic turn and I could not let myself for 1 minute not get involved to the highest degree because again, as I stated, here I am being naive or just oblivious, thinking foster care children are coming from homes where either their parents have been deceased or something really bad happened to them, or no family members could just like take these children into their custody, right? Because I mean CPS, child protective custody. So you think, you know what I'm saying? Or child protective services or what have you. So you're thinking the agencies are there to protect the young people, the children. And then I shortly therefore found out that that's not the case. Some parents are completely capable of taking care of their children, but we have situations where people are abusing children and because they have more power. I don't know, Stacey, if the people know your story very well, but I'm pretty sure they do at this point, right? But we have Stacey here as one of the case studies, I would like to say, right? Where she has money, she has a career, she's a woman, she's a mom, yet where are her kids, right? Then you have people like Vonda One, who lost her granddaughter in the system. The little girl is 4 years old, been out of the family's care for going on 4 years, right? Or past 4 years at this point.
And she has the sibling.
And literally, right? So therefore, out of three children, you all still have one child for what reason? And of course, a part of the task force is those that are advocating for families, like the Cheryl Huffs, President Cheryl Huff, who literally had to hold on to a family of five children because in Tennessee, a father had some marijuana in a car, and the police thought it was a good idea to call in CPS for whatever reason, and I believe there might have been a gun that was involved. However, the gun was registered to the father, to the family. It was not something that was going to abuse the child or what have you. There was no need for the Tennessee community to take away five children from this family to make a point out of them. And then these poor little beautiful children ended up with Cheryl Huff, thank God, president of the National Action Network in Tennessee, but for almost 2 months of their lives. Now, if the father and mother did not find a Cheryl Huff, all five of those babies would have been what? Separated. And they probably would have been lost in the sphere of the CPS tunnel of madness. And so now we are fighting for people. We're helping as much as we can. Our task force is not that big, but I will say this, and I'm saying it live on your platform. I have been meeting with the council members team, and we are pushing forward with the bill that is going to help make a difference. So the council member that has answered the call, big ups to council member Kevin C. Riley out of the Bronx. He has been the only one to keep his word and say, Anaya, we're going to work together. And as we can see, we've met with him, Stacy, and the rest of the team. He has been very forthright and very honest, and he's local in New York, right? But we're hopefully working on this bill so that it can be nationwide because there's a lot of verbiage that literally needed to be amended and changed in some of these past, legislations, etc. Stacey, another thing when it comes to audits, real quick, we have something so outdated where it's annually. that they're trying to do audits for the foster care. And by the time you do an audit, like for a year, it's already 2 years later. We need accuracy. We need transparency. We need accountability. We need that the bar to be raised when it comes to our children. You cannot be snatching our children. And this is a plea and this is a request, but it's also a demand to CPS and the foster care community. You cannot keep getting away with this. We are saying no. Hell no. You all have to stop doing this. You can't just snatch children from their families because you think that they're in danger. Where is the imminent danger? Show us the danger. Now, are some families putting their children in danger? Hell yeah. There's some families that literally need the help. But let's try our best to decipher properly before we take children and cause them more grief, more depression, more suicidal ideations by just snatching them from their families when you don't see imminent danger. That's where we are right now, and we're making changes so that we can have better laws in place for our babies.
Thank you, Anaya. Yes. And I just want to personally say too, and give my love and thanks to Cheryl Huff too, for
Yes.
that's a pretty widely spread and known story with the family and their kids. I knew about it before I even knew Cheryl was involved. So
Wow.
I want to thank her for her involvement and not a lot of people are out there just putting their own neck on the line to help other people as well. And I also want to say thank you to Mr. Councilman Kevin Riley, because how many politicians did you go through before somebody started paying attention?
Oh my God, can I share? And I don't want to put these bastards on blast, but you know me. I excuse me. let me oh my God, let me calm down. Okay, so I went through like about, I want to say like three or four politicians, because oh yeah, I went through a couple of senators. I went through about three council people, so like three or four, I want to say, in total, right? That's including council and state senate, because I wanted to cover my tracks. So, council member, Riley, listen, I guess you guys can call this an endorsement. It is voting day in the Bronx here, local, and he deserves our vote. Like, honest to God, I'm not even in the man's district, right? But for him to answer the call, and he already had been working on something for months, right? Because with these bills, Stacy, and for anybody else that don't know, right? It takes a while for these things to come into fruition, basically. Like you have the idea, you put it to the paper, and then you have to go and talk to your rest of your colleagues. So what frustrates me though is the fact that there's something there. So when I spoke to those council members as well as the senators and things of that nature, they weren't oblivious to what I was saying, right? They just didn't care to answer the call, basically. And that's what made it so horrendous for me, because I'm like, when I had my last meeting with the council members team, right? It's like, oh, so these people knew. They knew what I was talking about. They knew that there are children being trafficked. Let's be 100% real. Children being trafficked, children being hurt, children that are not in stable conditions, children that are being pushed around into the system, and nobody's trying to fix the actual problem. A lot of these children don't need to be in foster care to begin with, and that's the biggest problem there. Now, let's talk about it, right? And again, shouts out to the council member for actually caring. Let's talk about the fact that if there's a problem within the family, why not identify that problem and try to get some resolutions for that family? But it's the same thing. And of course, I'm not a martyr for the cause, y'all. So don't you come for me, CPS, and all you other reckless people out here, because I'm telling the truth, right? The same thing with homelessness, right? The same thing with homelessness, the same thing with foster care. It's the same theory. You have somebody who's homeless, right? Instead of them getting help to get a home, a stable home, you'd rather put them in a shelter and move them around from place to place to make them more unstable, but the money is really there to help them get a new place to live long term. However, that's not what you all want to do. You all want to make our society more dysfunctional so your pockets can get fatter. Because now you need more money for housing, right? Or in foster care's case, right? Instead of trying to identify why the families may be going through what they're going through, let's help the families, which that should be a thing, Stacy, mind you. There's laws for that. There is in some documentations, right? You've seen it, right, Stacy?
Yep.
It's like aftercare. It's like, get a counselor to sit down with the family. Let's identify why the family is in jeopardy of losing their child. Or does a child have enough food? Let's fix that problem. Does a child have clothing? Let's fix that problem. Now, you want to take the child, you want to put the child in harm's way. Now, all of a sudden, you need more money for foster care. Get the hell out of here. We're not playing these games with y'all anymore. This is not right. These are human beings. These are babies. These are children. How are we going to have functional, great adults if we don't have functional, great children? Every child needs love. Every child deserves to have safety in their homes, to have a family that cares for them. And if that family can't take care of them, then let's find a solution. But don't tell me y'all need more billions and trillions for foster care when you're sitting here trafficking our children and hurting our community even more. This is BS, and we're not standing for it anymore. I need my child to be safe in the future, and I need my child to have functioning children around him when he gets of age. I'm tired of having children that are on medications that are not well mentally, emotionally, physically, damn, financially. You put the child in foster care, the money's going to the families. How about the child? When that child is 18 years old, where's that child going to go? Huh? On the streets.
Yeah, and what you were talking to me about, government intrusion is supposed to be the minimum possible to keep the child safe. So again, that would be, supplying things to make the family more functional. That would be looking for next of kin if the parents aren't suitable. That would be the parents having access, but the child being with next of kin. And taking the children out of the family is supposed to be the ultimate last resort, but it's always the goal.
Always the goal. And that's
that's the upsetting part. So anyways, yeah, so this is you learned a lot in a little time. I'm impressed.
Listen, well, when you're passionate and when you actually care, you're going to learn. And I even requested to sit in some hearings. Oh, speaking of hearings, court watch. So real quick, I've been passing out the cards in our community. And it's so funny. I recently spoke to a woman who was like, girl, where were you 20 years ago? I said, honey, I'm here now. We all have to pack these cords and we all need to talk about it. These courts need to have extra sets of eyes when it comes to our community. And of course, crime as well as abuse happens on every level, but it's predominantly happening in our communities, right? Where our Black people are literally are harmed more by the court system, right? However, that's why we have advocates like Stacy who says enough is enough. Let me teach you certain things because this is happening so much in your communities and you all are unaware, right? So that's why we have to continue to work with our advocates and our activists, as well as those that really care and are compassionate enough to say that this is something that we have to do. So besides that, whenever there's going to be hearings in regards to the foster care bill and things of that nature, I'm already like, I'm going to sit in. I'll be quiet. I'll try to be quiet as much as possible. Amanda doesn't want to get kicked out. But if I hear something a little cray, I'm going to be like, excuse me, judge person, or whatever. You know what I mean? But no, all jokes aside, my thing is learning for understanding and also for solutions, because we cannot keep this going. I'm telling you right now, Stacey, when I look around, especially in New York City, you came in for our event, big ups to you, but I'm pretty sure you didn't have enough time to go around and see the craziness, the people that are doped up on the sides of the street, the people that are sleeping on the floor because they have nowhere to go. And plus, they think it's too dangerous to even sleep in a shelter, right? Where did those people come from? How did they get to that place in life? What did they endure for them to say, I give up on myself? I
Right.
give up on life. You have to think that they came from somewhere. Something did not work out for them in their lives. Hence, they are in the situations they're in today. And my goal and my desire in standing with the councilman, Kevin C. Riley, as well as the rest of our little community that we've built up, is to see change, effective change. Whereas we can sit here together and help those that are in very bad predicaments get a little bit of hope again. And hope for me means hold on, pain ends. Let's try to have some more hope. Let's try to give love. It's the Brooklyn way, so they say, right? Mm.
Well, I know when I went to your meeting, I definitely felt a lot of love in the room. It was intense,
It was
peaceful,
right.
intense, right?
Yeah.
And if there's anything I know about you, Anaya, that I've learned in our time, is you are a woman of keeping your promises, and you're going to know when somebody doesn't keep their promises too. When you're going to visit these politicians, and
Yes.
you know how important promises are. They're important to you, and you keep them, and you're going to hold others to it. And you are a woman of dedication, and you are a woman of doing things by the book. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on was to help you bring light to your cause and what you're doing, but also to inspire others as well. Because as we keep talking about horror stories and blunders of the system, and what really is happening appears to be opposite of what the system was thought to be intended for. Um, but um, I think this interview with you is it leaves people feeling empowered. It leaves people with hope and comfort, knowing that there are people out there who care and are sincerely fighting for our children and looking to unite
Yes.
and work together, because that's where the answer is. The answer is with the people. The answer is not so much with the politicians, although when we find one that we can latch onto and they're willing to listen and help implement change, we're so thankful. But by and large, the answer is really with the people coming together and
Mm-hmm.
uniting in larger numbers and overpowering the corruption within the system. And we
Absolutely.
are stronger if we unite and work together.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. And I'm so glad you got to be a part of that conversation that evening and share and inspire, because you could see the light bulbs, when you were sharing certain things, even when you spoke. And then everybody who spoke was so passionate and came from different walks of life. But when it boils down to it, it's like, how do all these different fingers come together to form a fist so that we can work together and we can make this change, right? And so you're right about me too. If something is not right, I'm going to fight. I'm going to literally be like, "Yo, son, this is not the way. Like, we got to make something happen here." And I can't just go to sleep at night just like wondering, if I had a chance, what would happen. Nah, I have the chance. And I want people to understand that you all have the chance, right? And if you see something, say something. Sometimes it's not in our benefits because it could jeopardize our lives, but that's why we all have something called an instinct, right? Not everybody believes in God. I get it. But dang, if you don't believe in God, believe in something greater than yourself. And then just know that by you giving, and I want to share this, right? Because I had to talk about this recently. By you giving a little bit of your time, a little bit of, oh my God, I hope I don't cry, by giving a little piece of your heart, by sharing something as meaningful as saying that I see children that need help. I want to be able to give back. I want to mentor, or I want to foster, or I want to, take a child to a community, event or what have you. Do you know that's good energy? Do you know that's karma that's going to come back triple fold, quadruple fold? People don't understand that.
They
And I
don't.
think and I think we've gotten away from that. I don't do what I do for the record because, oh, I'm gonna get something in return. Nah, I do what I do because I've had second, third chances in life. And when I look at my life, I don't have everything, but guess what? I have more than many. And I want a lot of people to understand that if you have more than money, give a little bit more. You're not going to be broke from it. You're not going to lose sleep. Matter of fact, you're going to sleep better at night because your girl and I, I be sleeping because I'm doing the right thing. Right? There were days I wasn't sleeping. I'm not going to go into my whole life story right now, but there were days I was trying to figure out what would make me the happiest. Is it the money? No. Is it the drugs? Hell no. Is it the liquor? Yeah, the liquor used to make me sleep good because I was going through something after my family was murked out. You know what I mean? I've had relatives that were murdered, right? So I had to drink. I had to drink to go to sleep at night. But that didn't make me happy. It made me worse. So for those that are struggling with any substance abuses because you're going through something, trust and believe. Find your purpose. And I bet you'll sleep better at night and you'll have a great life. With that being said, I think we got everything, Stacy, unless there's anything else we have to add. I don't know, but you let me know.
Well, you gave a beautiful ending, but at some point I wanted to just tell you, especially if people are watching locally, an update on Barry's case.
Oh, yes.
So Barry, got his son out of the Connors group home because there was a child in Connors that was sexually abusing other children.
Yes.
But I also know the family of that child with those sexualized behaviors, and
Mm.
they are not allowing that child to come out of Connors and go to live with his grandmother, who is a suitable relative.
So, what actions can we take about that? Because that child needs help.
Well, for one thing, I'm saying this, on social media and publicly. Um, So the grandmother has petitioned to the court for custody. I think it to be an emergent situation because clearly the group home knew about his behavior
Right.
and couldn't manage him, and he was
Right.
abusing other children. So something needs to be done because it just seems like they just want to keep him there in the institution for money, but he needs to be home with his grandma. And it's not even just for the safety of other kids, but when a child has sexualized behaviors and they're offending on other children, every time they offend on a child, it hurts that child himself.
Absolutely.
So what better place to be than with his own grandmother where there's not other kids around, and for her to give her dedication, and a close friend of the family is an RN. So I just wanted to put this piece out there too in case anyone locally is watching, about Connor's group home and this child still being there.
So, I just had this conversation. Another thing too, and I'm glad you brought that up, Stacey, is the whole pushing of sexualized deviant
Yes.
behaviors, right? And I say deviant behaviors. I had a conversation with a very great young man who we know, Jason Fox, yesterday. And one thing I shared is this, right? And I forgot to share this part because our conversation was just so deep and it takes different turns, especially when it comes to this topic. I have to say this with the study that I've the degree that I have, right, in psychology, we have what you call the DSM, right? I don't know if you know the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's of the study of mental illnesses and things of that nature. When I was in college, and it was quite a few years ago, I look a lot younger than I am. Literally, there were maybe up to seven DSMs, right? That would be seven different books, which were all under the same categories of the diagnosis for phobias, mental illness, etc. I want to say we're up to like 15 at this point. You don't have to quote me. It's a quick Google search or what have you. The reason I bring this up is because many years ago, being homosexual, for example, was actually a mental illness, right? If you look into mental illnesses, homosexuality and things of that nature, and those type of behaviors were actually known as, mental illnesses. But somewhere down the road, right, those behaviors and the need to sleep with the same sex became a norm, right? Which broke the code of mental illness because now it started to be accepted. Why am I sharing this? As you talk about this young man, right, with these deviant behaviors, because he is actually a predator at this point. He's actually a sexual, he could be a rapist, he could be a molester. There's so many different ways that whole thing could go depending on his age, because we don't know his age. I don't actually know his age. But
And
he could act, what is it?
and intervention. He needs intervention.
Intervention as well. But the point is this that I'm trying to get at. In the DSM, not only is, I want to say, being homosexual no longer like a part of that conversation where it's no longer a mental illness, it's accepted, right? It's a part of our norm now. What they're also trying to do is they're trying to make transgenderism, or bringing people into the transgender light, a norm, bringing pedophilia into the normal spectrum, right? Whereas you're seeing different politicians, I call them tricky politicians, they're now saying that it's okay for grown ass men, or excuse me, grown ass women, right, to molest, rape, touch, etc., little children. Why is that important for me to bring up during such a topic? This little child that we're speaking of more than likely was raped, molested, touched at a very young age.
Yep.
What he's showcasing is what you called literal learned behavior. And in the learned behavior spectrum, he's only repeating what he has been done to him.
Yep.
And now, when you keep him in a situation like that, you're causing more mental illness to spread. But of course, if it's not in the DSM, more than likely it's no longer a mental illness, right? So it's going to become a norm that this behavior continues, where we know that it's wrong. However, people with power, people that are already sick in the head, I call them psychopaths because they are. They're not psychopaths, but they're psychopaths because they have a sick desire to see this behavior continue. Now, the bottom line, Stacy, and this is my prayer, is that you're able to find others in the community like yourself who can advocate on behalf of this child. It bothers me so much because this child needs help. This child needs a way out, but he doesn't know where to go and what to do. And when you leave a child in this situation where they're calling out for help in the only way they know how, and yet they're perpetuating this hurt on others, we're causing more mania in our communities, and we're going to see more children hurting each other and themselves because they have no escape. So we have to understand that this fight is bigger than the child that is putting a sexual act out there because he feels something and he wants to exhibit that behavior. No, it's deeper than that. He needs to be healed. He needs to be in an environment where he doesn't have access to other young children because he is pushing that narrative to others. It breaks my heart because I see things one way and of course others don't. And we always have this battle between good and evil in our world. But it just takes a handful of us to say, no, we're not going to allow this to continue to happen. And we need this child to get help.
Yep.
And I think that would be the best way around this situation, Stacey. As you know, and as you've listened and you know certain things that have been going on in your life as well, right? We have to continue to fight. It's going to be hard, but whatever we have to do to make an effective change and a difference, that's what we have to do. Because God forbid, as we talked about before, Stacey, if this child doesn't get help, this child could become a mass murderer. This child could become suicidal if he already isn't. He could become a cutter. You know, when you look at these people with those cuts on their arms, you think sometimes they're longing for attention or they're just like not okay for a day, but they'll get over it. It's a pain inside of them that they're trying to get rid of. It's the imagery, it's the feelings, it's the touch, it's the unwarranted sexual advances that leads into full out rape and molestation. Let's do better, my people. Stacy, let me know how I can help from New York City. My heart breaks for this young man. I'm happy that Barry was able to get his son out of there. But what are we going to do about the young person that's still there with this behavior? And how are we going to hold those accountable that are allowing this to continue?
Right. I knew the child before the child went into the group home, and I knew of his proclivities before going into the group home. And under my professional capacity, I wrote a letter to CPS and so forth, that the child should not be placed in a group home with other children. And after he got placed in there, the family also came back to me that they were allowing him to sleep in a bedroom with other kids, even though they knew he had these behaviors.
That's what they do, and that's what I heard in locally in New York City as well, right here in the Bronx. This is happening every day, and we have to make a change. We have to do something about it. Let me know what we can do, Stacy, for sure. I'm here for the fight, and I'm here however I can lend my help. And then of course we have the rest of the team if you want to keep us updated in our group chat. And for anybody that wants to work with us, and thank you so much, Vaughn, the one, we love you, sis. I saw some other messages. However, the screen is very small, so I can't see 100% what the messages are stating at this point. But Stacy, if anybody wants to stay in touch, you know me, I'm an open book. My name is Anaya A. Period on Facebook. Please send me a request. I don't often see my friend requests because I have like a lot of them. But if you DM me, then and say that you saw this video and this interview and you'd like to stay in touch, then I will definitely be able to respond accordingly. Anaya A. Periods on Facebook is my name. And then, of course, you all, let's just work together. I mean, Stacy knows me very well. I've been on a number of platforms. If my face looks familiar, it's because I've been nationally, televised and things of that nature. And I'm just trying to do the work of God and help the people. So, Stacy, please, when it comes to that young man, don't stop writing the letters, but also see if we could get some kind of hearing or something in place where that child could be examined maybe from a doctor or a psychologist or even a therapist or something, because that child needs a lot of help at this point.
Yep. Thank you, Anaya. Thank you for all your
Thank
love
you.
and your caring and your concern and your inspiration. And thank you for coming on the show. And like I said, interviewing you is going to help people to feel empowered and loved and cared for. And it's just so warming to know that there's, in the face of all this evil, it's so welcoming to come across people who care. So thank
Thank you. Thank you. I love you, Stacy. I love your viewers and the whole community. And again, shouts out to the Foster Care Task Force and to the council member, Kevin C. Riley, who cares. And we have so many great updates for the rest of the community. So we're going to be putting out some information very soon. Thank
thank
you,
you.
Stacy.
You have a blessed day.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.